Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. It's week 7, and it's time for our wavering video. And I'm going to be joined by contributing writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports, Evan Webb, once again. And we're going to talk about some good waiver wire pickups for the coming week. So you'll want to listen in closely and see what we have to say, because we have a lot of good content to talk about today. Evan, thanks so much for joining me once again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff. It's crazy that it's already week 7.
I know, it is crazy. And this week's kind of tough, too, a little bit. Not so much because of the injuries, but there's some good teams on buys this week. Buffalo, the Rams, the Vikings, and Eagles. So that's some big time fantasy players that are off this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like, I was especially looking at the quarterback position. I mean, those are 4 pretty good fantasy quarterbacks that are not playing this week. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of waiver pickups to look at for this week for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And there's not a whole lot when it comes to the QB spot at this point of the season, unfortunately. So let's get into that one right away. Who's a quarterback pickup that you're looking at for week 7?
Yeah, I like Marcus Mariota. I think he's coming off his best game of the season. Last week, only 129 passing yards, but he did have 2 passing touchdowns, and he's rushing a lot as well. And I think that's where he's going to pick up most of his points is rushing the football. And he had a rushing touchdown to go along with his 2 passing TDs. So like we mentioned earlier, guys like Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen not playing this week. So I think this is a great week to add Marcus Mariota. I think he's got a really high floor, unlike a lot of other backup quarterbacks. So, yeah, I like Marcus Mariota this week.
So I'm in a similar boat as you with my pick, and it's Justin Fields, and it's because of his ability to run the ball. I don't like the way he's throwing the ball. I hate their offensive line. It's a disaster. I don't like their receivers, but he's getting it done running the ball. He has at least 47 rushing yards, 4 straight games. Like you mentioned with Mariota, really helps his floor. So I think it's encouraging, seeing him get so many rushing yards on a weekly basis. And he had his best fantasy game of the season last week, top 20 fantasy points for the first time all season. He has at least 19 fantasy points, 2 straight games as well. I think he's a good bye week replacement. He's available in a lot of leagues still, 53% on our site. So over half the leagues, you can still get Justin Fields. Let's move on to running back now, Evan. Who do you like as a couple pickups this week at running back?
Yeah, the first one I like is Latavius Murray from the Denver Broncos. It does kind of look like, they got 3 guys basically, but it does kind of look like Latavius Murray's the number 1 back right now for Denver. Last night, it looked like Melvin Gordon was on the sideline for most of the game, so it kind of looks like Latavius Murray has taken the role as maybe the number 1 back there, at least for now. He had 15 rushing attempts for 66 yards. So, yeah, I think just for the concern that Melvin Gordon kind of looks like maybe not even just the second guy, but the third guy now. Mike Boone is maybe another decent ad to look at, but I think Latavius Murray is at least out of all those running backs for Denver, I think he's probably the number 1 guy to go to.
Yeah, I think so too at this point, but who knows in that situation? And it's a tough one to navigate. It might be pick them up and wait and see what happens this week before you plug them into your lineup. Who else you got at running back, Evan?
Yeah, the second guy I got is Caleb Huntley from the Atlanta Falcons. He's splitting pretty much equal carries with Tyler Algier. At least last week he did 16 rushes for 59 yards. He does have Cincinnati this week, which is a pretty good defense, but it does kind of look like that he's splitting the carries with Algier, at least now that Patterson's out. And they're playing, they have a game against Cincinnati and then an easier game next week. So I like Caleb Huntley as a potential ad for this week.
All right. My first one I want to talk about is Kenyon Drake. So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not completely sold on him. He had chances earlier in the season when Dobbins was out of the lineup, and he didn't really do much. But last week he showed a lot, ran 10 times for 119 yards and a touchdown. So I think he's definitely worth a look, especially since he's available in so many leagues, roughly 90% on our site. And Dobbins is banged up, might not be able to play this week. He left that game last week. His knee just doesn't seem to be 100% right now. So Drake's definitely worth a pickup. But I proceed with caution with him, not completely sold on him. I still think Gus Edwards is going to be the guy once he's back and healthy, maybe to carry the load there. So if he's available in your league too, I would consider adding him. But for the short term, I think Drake could be a good play the next couple of weeks. And my second pickup, this is a deeper dive. It's Kyron Williams with the Los Angeles Rams. So he had a great preseason, a great training camp, a lot of buzz surrounding him. They were talking about him being in the mix for carries immediately in week one. He got that high ankle sprain pretty much right away. The first game of the season, didn't get a carry, and he's been out ever since. But he's nearing a return. They're saying he should be out 6 to 8 weeks. So you're looking at that time frame right now. We're in week 7. So he could be back week 8, week 9, and he could be in the mix right away for carries with Los Angeles. That backfield's a mess right now with the Cam Akers situation. Doesn't look like he's going to play anymore with them. And the rest of the backs just aren't getting it done with Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown. I don't trust any of those guys right now. And Kyron Williams might actually end up being the guy, and he's out there in most leagues. So, again, a good speculative ad for fantasy owners if you want to take a chance on a guy that could play a bigger role late in the season. Let's move on to the receiver spot now, Evan. Who's a couple receivers you're looking at adding on the waivers this week?
Yeah, my first one's Mecole Hardman from the Kansas City Chiefs. His usage has gone up the last 2 games, and he had a receiving touchdown on Sunday. Only 5 targets and 3 receptions for 42 yards. But the thing is with Kansas City is they do kind of have a mix of different receivers to go to, and they're kind of all in the same boat a little bit. But I think Hardman's usage is going to continue to go up a little bit, and he's proved to at least be a look, and especially he's going to draw the defenders with guys like Travis Kelce on the team getting a lot of receptions, and or Travis Kelce is going to draw a lot of attention offensively. So I think Mecole Hardman's a good ad, and then my second guy I got on the board is Rondale Moore from the Arizona Cardinals. One reason why that I think Rondale Moore is a good ad is because Hollywood Brown looks like he is going to be out at least indefinitely for I don't know how long, if he's even going to be able to come back. But I think Rondale Moore kind of fits into that second wide receiver slot for Arizona. 10 targets last week, 6 receptions for 49 yards. And DeAndre Hopkins is supposed to be coming back this week. But like I said, Rondale Moore, I think, will be kind of that 2 receiver now for Arizona. And this week they're facing New Orleans, and they're not a very good defensive team, especially against wide receivers this year.
Yeah, and they did add Robbie Anderson yesterday in a trade as well, but he's probably going to take a little while to get up to speed in that offense. Either way, Moore's going to play a big role the rest of the way. They had big things pegged for him before the season, and it seems like he's just hitting his stride now, so I like that pickup. And I have a similar guy as my first pickup. It's Wan'Dale Robinson, another speedy, small target, but can make a lot of plays after the catch. The rookie is very exciting. He got hurt first game of the season, but he's back now, caught 3 passes for 37 yards and a touchdown last week. Again, another player that was gaining a lot of buzz in training camp. I think he's going to be the number 1 target in this offense the next several weeks, and he's still out there in a lot of leagues, 80% of leagues, and actually roughly around 77% of leagues, I'm sorry. But he's out there in a lot of leagues still on our site. So if he's out there and you need receiver help, I'll definitely grab him. I think he's one of my top pickups for this week, and I think he could make a big impact the rest of the way, getting a lot of targets in a suddenly exciting Giants offense. And my next one is Chase Claypool. This was a guy drafted in most leagues, but he got dropped because of a slow start. Didn't do a whole lot early in the year, so owners kind of gave up on him, but he's back and making plays. He has 12 receptions his last 2 games, at least 5 receptions each of those games as well. He scored a touchdown last week, top 20 fantasy points in that game. That was his first touchdown of the season last week. So he's really starting to come on a little bit and getting more looks in that offense. And he's available in about 42% of leagues on our site as well. Like I said, he was dropped in a lot of formats. And they're having trouble running the ball in Pittsburgh, so they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more, even if Mitchell Trubisky might have to start this week because of the Kenny Pickett injury, possible concussion. It doesn't seem too serious, so I think Pickett probably going to start. Either way, they're going to throw the ball a lot, and I think Claypool is going to be in the mix a lot going forward. Really encouraged by his play lately. Let's move on to tight end now, Evan. Not the most exciting position in the world, especially on waivers, but there are a few options out there, I think, for this week. Who do you like?
Yeah, I tried to go with a guy that, a lot of people don't know about, that we haven't talked about before, because it does kind of seem like we end up talking about the same tight ends just because they're always available. But I'm going to go with a guy like Cade Otton from Tampa Bay. And the reason why is because Cameron Brate had a neck injury coming in the second half of the game last week. So he's coming off that neck injury, and I think Cade Otton's going to get probably the starting tight end role for Tampa Bay. He was only 2 of 3 for 23 yards last week, but they're going to face a bad Carolina team, and I think it's a get-right game for Tampa Bay. So Otton might be able to get a lot of garbage points in this game, and I think it's a game that Tom Brady's going to look to go to him a little bit.
Yeah, and Tom Brady definitely likes the tight end as well. I like that Otton call. One of them, my pick, is a guy we have talked about in the past as well. I think you mentioned him last week, but I like Daniel Bellinger a lot. Still out there in a lot of leagues. He continues to emerge, scored his second touchdown of the season last week. He had a career-high 5 catches as well. He has at least 3 catches, 3 or 4 games. I don't think his ceiling's super high because he doesn't get a lot of yards, but I like his floor because he's getting some catches. He's a good red zone target as well, so he has the potential for a good game, even if he doesn't score a touchdown. If he scores a touchdown, he has potential for a really good game. But even if he doesn't, I like his floor because he's getting catches, and he's still available in about 82% of leagues on our site as well. So I think Bellinger's a guy that's going to just keep gaining traction in this offense as the season progresses. I saw someone do a comparison. I can't remember who said it, so I apologize for not referencing them, but on Twitter, someone mentioned Bellinger, kind of comparing to Pat Freiermuth, who kind of started the same way last year, started kind of slow, but really emerged that second half of the season, was a big target in that offense, and they think Bellinger could be in the same boat, and I agree with that assessment. I really like that comparison. All right, Evan, we like to give streaming defenses each week, so these are defenses that aren't owned a lot on our site, and they're available. A lot of teams like to stream defenses. I do in a lot of my leagues, so who's an option for people this week?
Yeah, it's the New York Jets. The Jets have kind of been the big surprise in football this year, and honestly, they keep getting better and better each week that the season goes along. And this week they're facing a Denver team which hasn't been that great offensively. So, and the Jets are forcing a lot of turnovers. So, I think keep an eye on the Jets, especially with a lot of these good defenses that are out this week, like Buffalo, Philadelphia, and others. I think the Jets are a great ad for this week, and and like I said, I mean, the Jets just continually keep progressing each week that the season goes along. So,
yeah, they might be my surprise team in football as well. They have played really well, and also something to keep an eye on is Russell Wilson's banged up too, has a hamstring injury now to go with that shoulder issue he's been dealing with too. So he's a bit of a mess. So it's a good call on that for your streaming defense. Mine's actually the Raiders, who haven't played great this year, but they've been pretty good lately. They have 3 sacks each of their last 2 games. I thought they looked pretty good against a really good Chiefs defense their last time out. They have double-digit fantasy points just 2 weeks ago. They play the Texans. They're coming off a bye. I like teams coming off a bye as they get to prepare another week to get ready for these teams. So I think it's a good matchup for the Raiders. I think they could do well against a pretty mediocre Texans offense, in my opinion. All right, Evan, that's our wavering show for this week. Really appreciate you joining me once again. A lot of fun talking with you about all these options on the waiver wire.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
All right, good luck to you in all your games this week. And good luck to everybody else out there as well in week 7. I hope you win all your games and get all your waiver claims, and you are successful in all those waiver wire pickups for week 7 of the fantasy football season. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day, everyone.